He said just one sentence. "I'm tired of supporting you." Sophia didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't leave. She opened her laptop and pulled up the numbers. $9,000. In just 1 year. Just on their groceries. And that's when she thought, fine, you want separate finances? Let's do this. Completely. Sophia was 31 years old. She woke up every morning at 6 a.m. before the sun even touched the Chicago skyline. She showered quietly, made her coffee, and by the time her husband Jason even opened his eyes, she had already packed lunches, started laundry, and answered 3 work emails. She was the head of an international freight team at one of the biggest logistics corporations in the country. $8,000 a month, quarterly bonuses, high pressure, high stakes, zero room for error. And yet, every single evening she still came home and cooked. Not because anyone forced her, because she loved it. The kitchen was her peace, her reset button, her 1 hour of silence after a day full of noise. Jason was a structural draftsman. Good job, stable income, $5,500 a month, a decent man, on the surface. When they got married 5 years ago, Sophia made one thing crystal clear. No traditional roles, no housewife dynamic. Jason had nodded easily like it was obvious. But life has a funny way of drifting. Slowly, quietly, without a single argument. Sophia became the one who cooked, cleaned, grocery shopped, managed the bills, tracked every expense, and hosted his entire family every single Saturday. Not because Jason demanded it. Because he simply never lifted a finger, and Sophia never stopped. Every Saturday his mother Carol would walk in with a tote bag full of empty Tupperware containers. Every Saturday Sophia spent 5 hours cooking. Prime rib, scalloped potatoes, handmade garlic knots, chocolate tarts, food that cost $170, $185, $200 every single week. And every Saturday Carol would sit down, eat until she was stuffed, pack up every single leftover, and on her way out, find something to criticize. The meat was too rare. The risotto was too mushy. The lemonade was too tart. 3 years of this. Every week. Without a single thank you. Sophia never exploded. That wasn't her style. She just absorbed it, smiled, and washed the dishes. But one night, after another Saturday, another round of packed Tupperware, another backhanded comment about her cooking, she sat at her computer and opened her budget spreadsheet. Just out of curiosity, just to see. She pulled up 12 months of receipts. Adding. And then she stopped. $9,000 in 1 year. Just on weekend groceries for Jason's family, not counting her time, not counting the gas bills, the electricity, the cleaning supplies, just the food. She leaned back in her chair and stared at that number for a long time. She wasn't angry. Sophia was never the kind of woman who got angry. She was the kind of woman who got precise. Then came the Wednesday night that changed everything. Jason sat across from her on the couch, nervously picking at a throw pillow. A habit he had when he was anxious. He cleared his throat, said he'd been thinking, said he'd been reading articles, said his coworker Peters, a bitter, freshly divorced man, had some very interesting thoughts about financial independence and marriage. Sophia listened without a word. She already knew what was coming. She had watched him stew over this for 2 weeks, watched him read articles late at night, watched his mother plant the seed at the dinner table in front of everyone, and then he said it. "Honey, from this paycheck on, we are going to manage our money separately. I'm tired of supporting you." Silence. Sophia looked at her husband. The man she had fed, cleaned for, sacrificed for, financially carried for 5 years. The man whose family had eaten $9,000 of her money and never once said thank you. She felt no rage, no tears. Just a cold, crystalline clarity settling over her like ice. She smiled. "That," she said quietly, "is an excellent idea." Jason blinked. He had prepared for a war. He had rehearsed his arguments. He was braced for tears, for screaming, for guilt. What he got was immediate, enthusiastic agreement, and somehow that was so much worse. He didn't know whether to celebrate or panic. He had no idea what he had just started. The next morning, Sophia woke up, made herself a gourmet breakfast, smoked salmon, avocado toast, fresh squeezed juice, and sat at the kitchen island alone. When Jason came downstairs and looked at the table set for one, he froze. "Where's my breakfast?" You make your own, Sophia said, not looking up from her iPad. Separate finances, remember? He opened the fridge. Every single shelf was covered in bright neon pink stickers. Her name written in Sharpie on every container, every ingredient, every leftover. In the kitchen corner stood a small personal pantry cabinet, with a padlock on it. Sophia wore the key on a chain around her neck. Jason stared at his wife like he didn't recognize her. He didn't, because for the first time in 5 years, he was finally seeing her clearly. The days that followed were a masterclass in consequences. Jason survived on boiled hot dogs that split open in the water, dry bread with butter, and a $10 cafeteria special that wrecked his stomach. His shirts went unironed, his bathroom went uncleaned, he burned through $300 in 1 week just trying and failing to feed himself. Meanwhile, Sophia was thriving. She bought everything she loved and Jason had always complained about: jumbo wild-caught shrimp, Roquefort blue cheese, fresh oysters on crushed ice with a glass of Pinot Grigio. She ate like a queen every single night, alone at the kitchen island, soft jazz in her AirPods, not a single complaint in sight. Came over. The day Sophia always spent 5 hours in the kitchen, except this time, she didn't. She sat on the couch with a thriller novel and told Jason, simply and calmly, that his family was his responsibility, his money, his problem. Jason panicked. He ordered catering from an upscale Italian restaurant, $350, and an hour before his family arrived, the restaurant called to cancel. Plumbing emergency, nothing they could do. Jason sprinted to the grocery store in a cold sweat, grabbed pasta, jarred sauce, bread, ran home, tried to boil the pasta, used too little water, watched it fuse into a solid starchy brick at the bottom of the pot, and threw the whole burnt mess in the sink. He looked at the clock. 15 minutes. He grabbed the last box of dry penne, poured it raw onto 3 paper plates, and set them on the dining table. That was lunch. When Carol walked in with her Tupperware bag and saw 3 paper plates of completely uncooked, hard, straight from the box pasta, the color drained from her face, and that was exactly when Sophia walked out of the hallway. She hadn't left for her friend's apartment. She had been in the bedroom the entire time, waiting. She walked slowly to the dining table, looked at the raw pasta, looked at her in-laws, and smiled with terrifying calm. Eat up, we manage our money separately now, remember? The room went completely silent. It was Michael, Jason's own brother, who finally said what everyone in that room was thinking. Mom, she's completely right. We've been freeloaders. 3 years of showing up, eating for free, packing leftovers, off Sophia's money and Sophia's labor. We never even said thank you. Carol had no answer. For once in her life, she had absolutely nothing to say. Sophia looked at her mother-in-law, the woman who had planted this entire idea, who had sat at her table eating her food and suggested with a smile that separate finances were the modern convenient thing to do. You came here every Saturday for 3 years, Sophia said. You ate, you critiqued, you packed your bags, over $27,000 of my money, Carol. And my payment. Was you telling me my prime rib was slightly overcooked? Jason dropped to his knees on the hardwood floor. In front of his mother, his brother, his sister-in-law, and 3 bewildered children, he clasped his hands and begged. Not for show, not out of embarrassment, out of the genuine gut-wrenching realization that he had destroyed something precious and hadn't even known it was happening. Sophia looked down at him for a long moment. Get up, Jason. She forgave him. She laid out her conditions: joint finances back, family dinners once a month, no more Tupperware, no more outside advice, and one non-negotiable acknowledgement that she was not a dependent. She was his equal. She contributed more to their life than he ever had, and he would say it out loud. He did. Weeping openly, he said every word, and Sophia forgave him. But forgiveness and trust, those are 2 entirely different things. And as Jason held her that night, as the family drove home in silence, as the apartment finally went quiet, Sophia knew something had permanently shifted inside her. The blind trust was gone. The certainty that they were an unbreakable team, gone. In its place was something quieter, colder, and far more permanent. She still cooked, still laughed, still sat beside him on the couch at night. But somewhere deep inside, she had already started packing. Not her bags, just her heart. Her secret savings account kept growing. $25,000. $40,000. 25 Jason knew nothing about it, and he didn't need to, because Sophia was no longer the woman who loved unconditionally and asked nothing in return. She was a woman with her eyes wide open, and that, in the end, was the greatest thing Jason ever gave her. Months passed. The apartment looked the same kitchen island where Sophia made her coffee every morning, same couch where they watched movies on Friday nights, same bed where they slept 3 feet apart, backs turned, breathing in silence. On the outside, nothing had changed. But inside Sophia's chest, where warmth used to live, there was just a quiet, hollow stillness, like a room where the furniture is still there but the people have long since left. Jason tried. God, he tried. He vacuumed without being asked. He did the dishes. He asked about her day. He stopped going out every Friday with his friends. He cut off Peter's completely. He brought her flowers once, tulips, her favorite, and placed them on the kitchen island without a word. Sophia smiled, put them in a vase, and thanked him. But even as she said the words, she felt the distance between them like a physical wall. Invisible, unbreakable, built brick by brick out of one sentence he could never take back. I'm tired of supporting you. 8 words, that's all it took. 8 words to undo 8 years. She would be cooking sometimes, searing salmon or chopping herbs, and out of nowhere those words would float back into her mind. Not with rage, not even with sadness anymore. Just with a quiet, final clarity. The kind of clarity that doesn't hurt, because it has already accepted the truth. One evening they were sitting at the kitchen island after dinner. Jason was watching her. He had been watching her a lot lately, the way a man watches something he knows he is losing. Slowly, helplessly, like sand slipping through his fingers no matter how tightly he holds on. Sophia, he said softly, are you happy? She was quiet for a long time. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, snow was falling over Chicago, soft and silent, covering everything in white. I'm content, she finally said. That's not the same thing. No, she agreed. It's not. Packed a grocery bag for his own mother. Never once written a check for a Saturday dinner. Never once calculated what his wife gave, until she stopped giving it. I ruined everything, didn't I? He said. It wasn't a question. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. And what she felt wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was something far more heartbreaking than either of those things. It was pity. You didn't ruin everything, Jason. You just showed me something I wasn't ready to see. That love alone is not enough. That a good heart without awareness, without effort, can drain the person next to you completely dry. And they'll keep smiling. They'll keep cooking. They'll keep carrying everything. Until one day, they just stop. Not with a fight, not with a dramatic exit, just quietly. From the inside. Jason's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. I know you didn't, she said. That's the saddest part. She stood up, washed her cup, dried her hands, and walked to the bedroom. At the door, she paused, just for a moment, and looked back at him sitting alone at the island, small, diminished, a man finally understanding the weight of what he had taken for granted. Good night, Jason, she said softly, and she closed the door. She never left dramatically. There was no screaming match, no thrown suitcases, no final ultimatum, just a gradual, dignified withdrawal, like a tide going out, slowly, steadily, without apology. Her savings account crossed $85,000 on a Tuesday afternoon. She checked it on her phone during lunch, took a sip of her coffee, and felt, not triumph, just peace. The quiet peace of a woman who had built her own ground to stand on, who no longer needed anyone's permission to be okay. And as she sat there, in that upscale bistro near her office, watching snow fall outside the window, she thought about every woman who had ever loved the way she used to love. Completely, blindly, generously. Keeping score, without demanding recognition. Pouring herself out like water and calling it devotion. She thought about every woman who had ever swallowed a criticism at her own dinner table and smiled anyway. Every woman who had labeled her pain as sensitivity, her exhaustion as weakness, her boundaries as selfishness. Every woman who had spent years feeding everyone around her and gone to bed hungry. And she wanted to say something to all of them. Not with anger, not with bitterness, just with the quiet, unshakable certainty of a woman who had learned the hard way. To every wife who is reading this, your love is not a liability. Your labor has a value. Every meal you cook, every load of laundry you fold, every appointment you remember, every birthday you plan, every emotional weight you carry in silence, that is work, real work, invisible work. Work that doesn't show up on a paycheck but holds an entire family together. You are not just a wife. You are not just a mother. You are not the background music of someone else's life. You are the architect, the foundation, the one who makes it all possible. And if the person sitting across from you at dinner has never once stopped to calculate what you give, do not wait for them to notice. Notice it yourself first. Know your own worth before anyone else does. Keep your eyes open. Keep your records. Know exactly where every dollar goes and every hour disappears. Not out of bitterness, out of self-respect. Because a woman who knows her worth cannot be made to feel like a burden. A woman who knows her worth cannot be gaslit into believing she contributes nothing. A woman who knows her worth walks into every room, including her own kitchen, with her head high and her eyes clear. Sophia didn't win because she got an apology. She won the moment she opened that spreadsheet and saw the truth in black and white. She won the moment she stopped shrinking herself to make room for people who never appreciated the space she gave them. She won the moment she realized, quietly, calmly, without a single dramatic scene, that she was enough, that she had always been enough, that she didn't need anyone's validation to know that, and neither do you. Love generously, but never love blindly. Give freely, but never give at the cost of yourself. Forgive, because bitterness is too heavy to carry, but never forget, because your memory is your protection. Build something of your own, a skill, a savings account, a career, a circle of women who see you clearly. Something that is entirely, unquestionably yours, so that no matter what happens, you always have ground to stand on. Because the greatest thing a woman can give herself is not a perfect marriage. It is the absolute, unshakable certainty that she will be okay, with or without anyone else. Sophia closed her laptop that night, looked out at the snow falling over Chicago and smiled. Not a performance, not a mask, a real smile. The smile of a woman who had walked through fire and come out the other side not broken, not bitter, but finally, completely, beautifully free.